Joining me today is Kevin France from the Water Security Agency on the topic of water as an economic driver. Thanks for being here today, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Sherilyn. My pleasure.
For those that are not familiar with the Water Security Agency, tell us about your roles and responsibilities.
You bet, yeah. And I know it's probably not the most exciting topic to talk about the Water Security Agency. It's a regulatory agency within the Saskatchewan government, but really an important one. It's the one house. We essentially regulate everything water in this province. And when you think about water quality, when you think of turn on your tap at home, that's us. When you think about water quality and where the lakes and the rivers and water coming in, water leaving the province, that's us. And you think about the environment that's tied to water. We're responsible for managing that habitat, the water quality, quantity, the associated interactions with wildlife and so on. So that's Water Security Agency in a nutshell. We're very unique in North America. We have, again, all the regulatory functions within one government body. But really, the focus too, though, for Water Security Agency, maybe regulatory is often viewed as that maybe a negative term. But to me, it's all about working with our citizens, our farmers and ranchers in this province to ensure that we manage water so that we can grow our economy.
Well, I can say with absolute certainty that farmers and ranchers never take water for granted. Can you share with us your perspective on the importance of water? How is water an economic driver in this province?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, top of mind, most recently for sure for our farmers and ranchers is about water availability. Whether it's extremely dry conditions or if we want to use the drought word, it adds stress, and we can't devalue or underestimate the importance of that that impact it has. And when we think about managing water, when I think about managing water, I think about the time and space. Obviously, Water Security Agency is not responsible for the actual rainfall or the water coming from the sky. I know, I wish I could. I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you, Sherilyn, if I could. But at the end of the day, we do have the ability to manage the time and space of water. So when you think about the infrastructure in this province, you think about 72 dams. And again, probably the most significant one that a lot of people think about is Lake Diefenbaker. Lake Diefenbaker was created in the 60s, but the vision for that lake actually came from the 1930s and a drought period, a significant drought period. And the impacts of that really fundamentally changed how we as farmers and ranchers thought about the environment and the impact it has, but also government. And how can government play a role in ensuring that water, both time and space, is available for economic growth? So, to tie it back to farmers and ranchers, when you think about irrigation, you think about water availability and putting water onto the landscape, we can support that through capturing that water through a reservoir or a dam, through infrastructure such as canals, and move it across the landscape in that time and space. When you think about water for economic growth, you have to think about all these opportunities that we're blessed with in this province. You think about potash, you think about value-added production. All those are dependent upon water. And so we need to ensure we manage our water resource so that those economies, that we can grow the economy, we can create those jobs for this province, and we can attract that investment to this province. So it's a critical function, I think, in terms of sustainability, the growth of this province, that we manage this resource properly, but we also view it as an economic driver. How do we ensure that that water is in the right time and space so that we can maximize the investment opportunities such as canola crush? A really prominent and important conversation and recent conversation in this province. That can't happen without water availability. And so whether it's groundwater or above groundwater or surface water, we need to manage it properly. We need to manage it to ensure that we can provide it to those that need it.
So for the consumers that are watching, how would an announcement like Canola Crush, because farmers were excited, industry was excited, we're all pumped to have increased Canola Crush capacity. How does water relate to a Canola Crush announcement? Yeah,
for sure. So you're right. The farmers and ranchers, there's excitement, and there should be. This is a great opportunity for this province. But for the Richardsons or the Cargills of the world, when they think about Canola Crush and what's required, they need water as an input to facilitate that processing of canola. And so again, they understand their business a lot better than I do, but I do know for sure there's a demand, there's a volume required to process the volumes that they're talking about of canola itself. And so, when they're thinking about investment into a province, whether it's Manitoba, Alberta, or Saskatchewan, water is an important driver to that. Water is an important consideration in terms of availability. Where will it come from? How much infrastructure is required to pull that water in to process that canola? So again, when I think about the opportunities for Saskatchewan for growth, I think about water, and I think about how can we provide that in a safe, secure manner that facilitates that growth. And that benefits, again, not just the farmer and rancher who grows the crop, it benefits all of us in terms of job creation, GDP to the province, really prosperity and population growth. We can do that. So, from a company's perspective, water is a key decision point. And I think, again, from my perspective, or water security agency's perspective, is how do we ensure that we have water available to allow that growth to happen while managing it to protect the environment and all those other important attributes that we have.
A lot of people want to get their hands on water in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
So recently there have been some big announcements of welcomed announcements and investments when it comes to irrigation. Yeah. Can you shed some light on what those irrigation projects are and what will be the role of the Water Security Agency as it relates to irrigation?
Yeah, thanks for that question, because it truly that gets me excited. This topic of irrigation in this province gets me excited. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. So July 2020, our Premier Saskatchewan announced a $4 billion investment, or a $4 billion project, which was labeled as the Lake Diefenbaker Irrigation Expansion Project. And again, I'll take us back a little bit, get a little bit of the history to the project. Please. And again, this is truly generational, transformational project. I mean, we should be excited in this province about the opportunity that irrigation presents us here, presents to our farmers and ranchers, but presents to all of us in terms of the job creations and so on. So again, I touched on earlier about water and how it's really informed us when we think about weather and water availability, and that being the creation of Lake Diefenbaker. So in the 60s, Lake Diefenbaker was created with this vision of somewhat drought mitigation. That being, let's store water so that we can then move water in the landscape to help, whether it's climate change resiliency or to allow us to hopefully prevent or lessen the impacts of drought on our producers. So that vision in the 60s, we created Lake Diefenbaker, we created Gardner Dam, which then created Lake Diefenbaker. That vision was to see an additional 500,000 acres of irrigation on the landscape. Unfortunately, through various reasons of decision-making, that was never achieved. And so really the vision that's put forth here in July by our Premier was really seeing that come to fruition for all of us. And so it's not a new project, but it's really a new investment and a new opportunity for us. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more for details in terms of what the opportunities are. And I will provide the context that we're in the early days of this project. So though there's a lot of excitement, though there's a big dollar figure tied to the potential for this, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we actually realize the potential. And so Lake Diefenbaker Irrigation Project is three projects in of itself. The first is the West Side Expansion Project. And for those that aren't familiar with Lake Diefenbaker, Gardner Dam, or those that are, Gardner Dam, we have the east side, which there's a lot of irrigation right now of northeast of Gardner Dam, an outlook area. It's the west side that has the growth potential for new irrigation acres. And so the expansion project will see an additional 80,000 acres. And that's building off of pre-existing infrastructure. There's a canal there, there's a reservoir there. We really want to refurbish that so that we can realize those 80,000 acres. The second project is the expansion project, and this is completely new. So it's Conquest area up to Asquith, North Saskatchewan, west of Saskatoon, for those who are familiar with the area. We'll see an additional 260,000 acres potentially in that area of irrigation. And again, we're gathering the information right now to help us make those informed decisions as we go forward. The environmental information, the engagement with communities and First Nations and Métis. All that work's happening now, but I tell you, the excitement on this project is palatable. I can't wait. The third project is the South Qu'Appelle Water Conveyance. We haven't started any of the work on that project yet. A lot of the work that we're talking about the west side, we've hired Clifton Associates, excuse me, that will help us gather that information. The South Qu'Appelle will be a couple of years down the road. But again, that project in of itself, when we think about water, economic driver, moving water from Lake Diefenbaker into Buffalo Pound, yes, irrigation, potentially 120,000 acres, but you think about that Moose Jaw Regina corridor, you think about value-added production, you think about the building blocks for agriculture and value-added, you think about feedlots, you think about meat processing or value-added facilities, you think about potash. Those are the opportunities that could be achieved with this project.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you...
It could be, we could see, in the next 50 years, $40 to $80 billion additional GDP to the province. 1,500 jobs each year as it is built out. Huge impact. And again, I'm excited. I can't wait to see the work continue. And we're early stages, but that's the potential that we see with this project, and that's why we're so excited about it.
So in terms of time frame, the farmers that want to consider irrigation, about what's that time frame look like?
Yeah, that's maybe what the hardest challenge is managing
Tomorrow?
expectations. Yeah,
No.
Tomorrow. We've had some phone calls about tomorrow. Yeah, again, we're really focused on the west side, the expansion project, the rehabilitation project, the expansion project. We're talking, potentially 5 to 10 years out before we really realize the potential irrigation. And again, there's that important work needs to be done to ensure we do it right. Manage the environmental expectations that we all have. We all want to ensure this is done in the right way through engagement, gathering that information. But that's the time frame we're in. I would love to see it tomorrow, especially with some of the dry conditions, but we'll do it, and we'll do it right.
Okay. Kevin, perhaps I'm biased. I've been biased once before. But I believe that farmers here in Canada, and especially here in Saskatchewan, are leaders in sustainability. For 40 years or more, we have adopted minimal tillage. At any opportunity we can, we are adopting farming practices that are environmentally friendly, and we're making decisions as farmers to what is best for the land. We truly care about the land. In our family, some of the land we're farming has been in our family for more than 100 years, so we take sustainability seriously. And I know the farmers that I know are making the best decisions that they can to care for the land. And those same farmers have questions when it comes to drainage. Can you share with us your perspective on drainage in the province, and in particular, what is the responsibility of the Water Security Agency relating to drainage on farmland?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you started with the sustainability context, and I'm with you 100%. Our farmers and ranchers are leaders in this area, and I'm proud of that. I've rooted my career in agriculture, and I respect the innovations and really the care, for whether it's the environment or their community. I respect and appreciate the efforts and the focus they've had, and the innovations we've seen has definitely fostered more and more. I mean, I believe in that statement that farmers and ranchers are the first and true environmentalists, right? They're not there to create negative impacts on anyone else, especially the environment. So when it comes to drainage, drainage is something that there's a great saying that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over, and it's so true. I mean, water is a contentious issue. So drainage is one of these issues where farmers and ranchers have had the ability to move water off of the landscape. They've done it to obviously benefit acres and benefit the ability to produce more acres, and I totally respect and appreciate that. And I think there's a way, though, that we can do that can minimize the impacts downstream. If you think about 10 years ago when we had extreme flood events or rainfall events, we saw some of the effects of high flows. We shouldn't be focused on extreme events of the impacts, but we should be thinking about, okay, how can we capture water? Even on drainage situations, how can we move water off the landscape, but yet still capture it, maybe even repurpose it for other uses? Maybe it's irrigation, maybe it's reservoirs, those type of things. So to me, I think WSA, we have a role. That is our role in ensuring approvals of drainage works on the landscape. But I would express or commit the fact that we want to work with producers. This isn't I believe it doesn't have to be a battle. I think there's an opportunity that we can meet and find solutions that work on farm for ranchers and farmers that are going to meet their needs as well as the needs of water quality, quantity, and the environment. So I think historically, again, I go back to water's for fighting over. We'll always have some of those issues, but going forward, the vision I have for WSA is to find solutions that work for our producers to ensure that they continue to benefit from the acres and maximize production while also sustainability, while also sustaining the values that we all believe in, especially our farmers and ranchers.
Kevin, if farmers have more questions about drainage or about the irrigation projects, where do they go for answers?
They can
Their personal cell phone number?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we'll put my personal cell out there. But our website, www.wsask.ca. It's a tongue twister. You can find us there. All our contact information is there. And I'd encourage that, though. And thank you for asking that, because I want those questions to come. And And again, we're viewed as a regulatory body, but we're also here to help producers, help our farmers and ranchers move forward and realize these opportunities that we've talked about today. So I encourage them to reach out and learn more about whether it's drainage and approvals or whether it's the irrigation project. Again, a lot of excitement in this province, and I can't wait to get going.
Water, like agriculture, is without question an economic driver in the province. So thank you so much for being here today, Kevin, and sharing this information about the Water Security Agency and as it relates to projects related to agriculture. So thank you for being here. Thanks so much.